was younger, the most epic game I have ever played was World of Warcraft. That game was full of mystery, adventure, companionship, dungeons, loot, fantasy tropes that weren't totally boring. Yeah, it had it all, and I was enthralled by the world. I enjoyed the game around the time that Burning Crusade, the game's first expansion, was released. It was still relatively new, and I even got to witness my cousin have his game crash a few times as he entered the gates of Outlands, and it was just a very memorable moment. I was instantly signing up to that shit, and now trying to catch up with my cousins while still in school proved to be a bit difficult. This is old school World of Warcraft. Leveling was a difficult task, and I'd sometimes play for days and not even get up by 2 levels. Eventually, I was able to catch up, but it was around this point that the Black Temple was released, and Illidan had already been defeated. The last raid of the expansion, Sunwell Plateau, was right around the corner, and people were already speculating on what the next expansion could be. Some listed off some usual suspects such as Ashara, Lich King. Some even joked that maybe Pandarans would be a new race. I mean, who would ever think that would happen? Ideas are always wild when new expansions are right around the corner. But the most wild and the most popular theory was that we were going to visit the ever-elusive and ever-so-popular Emerald Dream. Now, what the hell is the Emerald Dream, and why do people think we'd go there? And why was there so much footage of this weird place when the expansion never came out, even now, 15 years later? Well, to answer the first question, the Emerald Dream acts as a sort of blueprint used by the Titans, which is layman's terms as these godlike beings that forge worlds and create life in the lore. When making Azeroth, that is the world you inhabit in this game, they use the Emerald Dream to plan out how to create life. But what actually is it? It's basically this just vast green Pangea-like continent that's uninhabited by any wildlife or any mortals for that matter. It's untouched and unspoiled by anything. Keep this in mind, as it'll basically be the bullet that went through Blizzard's foot when they inevitably shoot themselves. The Emerald Dream was a mythical place. It was deep and rich with lore, and it was kind of obvious that the next expansion was going to be in the Emerald Dream. It's not only because it was such a lore important place, but also there was footage going around YouTube of these people that were seemingly exploring this random zone that has never existed in the game before. It was basically people that were glitching, quote unquote, through the game files and just suddenly appear in the Emerald Dream. These videos were a mystery, and it misled some people into thinking that they could just jump over a certain area around Mount Hyjal and then boom, they're suddenly in the Emerald Dream. These videos were very convincing back in the day, but nowadays it's pretty obvious that they were edited or spliced together to bring out the illusion that they were legit ways to get into the Emerald Dream, which does exist in the game's files, but there's no way actually to visit the place. Usually these videos were created by people who made private servers and had access to all sorts of dev kits in order to get into the Emerald Dream. Eventually, when the Lich King did come out, these videos became far more rampant, and more people became interested in visiting the Emerald Dream. Sadly, there is no real way to get into the Emerald Dream legitimately. But while there is no legitimate way to get into the Emerald Dream, that doesn't mean that the Emerald Dream itself doesn't exist, because it does. These are legit zones that, if possible, you can explore, and they're massive, honestly. This is obviously indicating that there was a plan to implement the Emerald Dream into the game. What you can find is a huge leftover massive landscape full of weird trees and bizarre valleys, at least for a moment, as the forest eventually turns into a very green barren wasteland. Now, it's currently unknown just what Blizzard was going to do with this data. Through some interviews, it was speculated that druids in-game were going to have some sort of small zone connected to the Emerald Dream, as canonically druids do have an affinity for the Emerald Dream and have always, lore-wise anyways, been able to travel in between this world and the Emerald Dream whenever they wanted. Yet this was never actually implemented. That is until Legion, but we'll get to that in a bit. Then there are other interviews where it was implied to be a high-level questing zone. Keep in mind, when Vanilla WoW was released, there were barely any endgame content for high-level people. There was so little endgame content, in fact, that the questing just stopped around level 58. Like, literally, there were no quests for levels 58 and above, so it would make sense that the Emerald Dream be that kind of endgame content for those people yearning for any way to level up other than grinding mobs. This is further amplified when you consider the fact that there were portals around Azeroth that really do nothing at all, honestly, but were speculated to be a portal to the Emerald Dream. Yet when they were dropped into the live game, these portals only served as a static, inconsequential looking piece of terrain. I mean, it served a narrative purpose, sure, as the Dragons of Nightmares came from those portals, but they didn't do anything else. So it's speculated since vanilla that we'd someday be able to traverse into this mysterious zone that Blizzard seemingly forgot. And expansion after expansion later, people always brought up the possibility of going to the Emerald Dream. Yet as time passed, nobody really cared about it anymore. It suddenly became a myth for people. It was just reduced to nothing more than a mere meme. Yet, not all hope is lost. The latest expansion have connected people to the Emerald Dream, albeit as an instance rather than full-fledged zones. And if you're new to WoW or you don't really know what an instance is, basically it's just one small part of the game, a zone that's cut off from the rest of the main game and landscape, more or less. So we have places like the Dream Grove, this area that druids can teleport to whenever they want, and then we have the Emerald Nightmare, which is basically just the Emerald Dream, only corrupted by the Burning Legion. Once you complete the Emerald Nightmare raid, you get to see the Emerald Dream restored, and you get to see a very small portion of the Emerald Dream to explore. Funny enough, as if to taunt the players, you can see some of the old assets from the old Emerald Dream zone used in this zone. So with all the teasing and small glimpses into the Emerald Dream, will the expansion ever come out? Can we expect players to finally explore the forests and canyons of the Emerald Dream? Well, not likely. See, all this teasing does imply that the Emerald Dream does have a much deeper use in the Warcraft storyline, but I really doubt that the Emerald Dream could ever fully flourish into a fun, scalable zone. I say that because of one tiny little issue. The Emerald Dream is a pristine version of the world, untouched by man, beast, orc, or whatever. It's nature at its purest form, with only plant life taking over and ruling the lands. There's nothing good or evil about the zone, so tainting the zone with people, adventurers, citadels, I mean, that's just not what the Emerald Dream is, lore-wise, and gameplay-wise, it wouldn't be very fun to explore either. If you really want the Emerald Dream, I mean, technically we already got the Emerald Dream, like over 10 years ago, maybe even 15 years ago. It's right here. It's green, barren, and really not that fascinating. Story-wise, I don't really see any reason to go back to the Emerald Dream either. There's a few things you can use it for the story, sure, but right now with the focus on Sylvanas, the possibility of the World of Warcraft ending soon, I mean, the Burning Legion is gone. I mean, those were the big baddies for the longest time, and they're just gone. Hell, even Ashara, another big baddie, is just done for. So really, what purpose does Blizzard have going to the Emerald Dream, aside for a few quests or instances? Not really much reason, honestly. Unless, of course, they have something here that I'm missing. I don't know, I haven't kept up with the lore since Pandaria, maybe. So, leave a comment down below if you think that we'll go to the Emerald Dream anytime soon for, like, lore reasons. But for now, I think I'm done. I'm content knowing that my druid at least could have fun all he wants in the Dream Grove, because I know fully well that that is a portion of the Emerald Dream. And honestly, the fact that I can stand there now in a place where I could never travel 10 years ago, that's like a dream come true.